Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're delighted to have you here for this Let's Talk Organics webinar on the retail market for organic fresh produce and tips for growers doing business with supermarket buyers. My name is William Deasy, and I'm a Specialised Vegetable Advisor with Teagasc, and along with Elaine, Leavy, Organic Specialist at Teagasc, will be your host today. During the first session of the webinar, we will be joined by Emmet Doyle, Bord Bia Organic Sector Manager, and Conor Hogan, Organic Executive at Bord Bia, who will provide up-to-date market data for retail sales of organic fresh produce in Ireland and insights from markets elsewhere. For the final session, former supermarket buyer in the UK and retail expert Ged Futter of the Retail Mind will provide advice for growers on managing the supermarket supplier relationship. Ged was unable to join us in person today, but he's more than happy to take any questions you might have, which you can follow up with myself after the webinar. We'll have time for questions at the end, so please feel free to share your thoughts or ask questions in the chat as we go along throughout the webinar, and we'll make sure to address all or as many of these as we can. For those who are unable to make the live webinar today, or for anyone who wants to watch back, the webinar will be going up on the Teagasc Organic webpage in the coming days. So now let me hand you over to our first speakers, Emmet Doyle and Conor Hogan of Bord Bia.
Thanks very much, William. I'm just going to share my screen here. So good afternoon, everyone. As Emmet mentioned, my name is Conor and I'm an organic executive here at Bord Bia. And today, myself and Emmet will present on the Irish organic produce market. So firstly, I'm going to do an overview of the European organic landscape market. Then Emmet is going to do the Irish organic produce category focus and the 2024 retail category performance. Then I'm going to take you through the Bord Bia organic campaign, and then finally the takeaways from the presentation. So firstly, learnings from Europe. Now these learnings were taken from BioFac, which Bord Bia attended 2 weeks ago. BioFac is the largest organic trade show in the world. Now first, looking at the EU and global organic sales, positive news on the European market, as can be seen in the lighter shade of blue, that European sales have recovered from the decline in 2022. Not only have we recovered from this decline, but the European market for organic food and drink is set to recover and then outperform total food and drink in sales over the next 2 years. A reason for this strong performance and forecast is that a product being organic is now in the top 10 influencing factors in purchasing. This shows that organic is mainstream and now top of mind for consumers. Moving on to consumer insights from the show, here we see that the main motivators for purchasing organic by demographic. This highlights that there is no single organic consumer and also highlights the importance of selling your unique selling point to consumers in your marketing and communications. This could be around the locality of your produce, the health benefits, or the quality, for example. Moving on now to in-store findings, where we audited the major retailers in Germany. These are subdivided out into specialty organic stores, major retailers, and discounters. Firstly, looking at organic specialty stores with a wide range of organic produce. There is more organic veg available than fruit, a theme that's common across all retailers. This method of loose packaging is shown to be proven very successful. As we can see, it's been imitated by major retailers. The example here, Rewe. In major retailers, organic and conventional produce are sitting next to each other, and there's still quite a wide variety available. Moving on now to discounters, and the produce section here is notably different than the look and feel of the first two retailers, as discounters have only begun to adopt the loose packaging format. Here we can see it is somewhat haphazard and messier. Moving on now to how to the retailers' attitude towards organics. A major retailer here, Teagasc, highlights the benefits of organic regulation, showing the process in quality control of the organic produce that is required and how consumers can trust it. As can be seen here, control builds trust, signposted for customers. The discount, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I've gone ahead. The discounters already used the positive name in organics, show that everyday prices for all organic consumers, as can be seen here, we find organic quality is for all. On pricing, which is a very important factor in Germany, we can see that Rewe is at a higher price point than Aldi and other discounters, but they actually promote organics through their own brand and through the club card promotions, a different pricing strategy. This is very important for the German consumer, as outlined in our export research carried out last year. Here that we can see in a discounter that organic is actually priced cheaper, or appears to be, but when you actually break that down, you can see that there's a significant premium for organic when on the price per kg. In produce, where the weight is similar, organic produce is highlighted with the premium beside conventional counterparts anyway, showcasing that the customer still will choose the organic produce even at a premium. Now, moving away from the European landscape, my colleague Emmet is going to do a deep dive into the category of Irish retail.
Great, thanks, Conor. And I think there's some really nice, interesting learnings there from Germany. And as mentioned, we're bringing it a little bit closer to home. So firstly, looking at a bit of a shopper deep dive we did with Shopper Intelligence, we worked with this agency to get an understanding of what kind of the shopper satisfaction was around organic produce at retail level at the moment. Looking at 6 kind of subcategories being organic root veg, green veg, salad veg, potatoes, apples and pears, and berries. And this research looks at kind of what we kind of classify 3 different areas when it comes to shop around traffic drivers, showing that is this category kind of enticing shoppers to go in store, around spend drivers, so will shoppers spend more in this category, and looking at their overall satisfaction. But before we go into those 3 kind of metrics, I kind of want to look at how Shopper Intelligence group their 190 categories in store. And they do it in this quadrant, working from left to right is around intentionality. And what that means is anything on the left side is around low intentionality, which means it's more of an impulse purchase in store, while anything on the right is high intentionality, meaning that it's high on the shopping list. And working from bottom to top, you've got anything below the line on the bottom is more of a low engagement purchase, which means it's kind of a routine purchase you can do in your sleep. While anything up top is more high engagement, meaning that that there's more criteria and there's more effort to put in place to purchase that product. So to give an example of some of these, on the left quadrant there, you've got branded soft drink. You know, if you go into a store, you see a can of Coke, you pick it up. It's very routine. It's not going to be on your shopping list. So that's kind of what an example of that bottom left quadrant looks like. That's compared to flowers up in the high engagement piece, where it may not necessarily be on your shopping list, but when you're in store at shelf edge, you're going to be comparing the price of the different flowers, what varieties are there, what's the shelf like, or the life of the product as well. Now looking at the right hand side, so looking at high intentionality, that's something like nappies, so on the top of your shopping list. And then below that, in the bottom right quadrant, is milk. So that's something that's going to be higher, it's going to be on your shopping list, but it's a routine purchase, meaning that you're going in store, you buy the same product, the same format on a regular basis. On the next slide now, you look at this from a total fruit and total veg perspective. So total fresh fruit is on that kind of bottom left quadrant, meaning that it's very much a routine purchase and can be very kind of impulse while in store. So, you see a pack of strawberries, you pick it up. Compare that then to total fresh veg. Again, similar, quite routine in relation to purchase, but more inclined to be on the shopping list. What's interesting now is when you compare this to total organic fruit and veg, or the 6 different categories, and they're all in this top right quadrant. And that's actually kind of a bit of the bullseye when you're looking at it from a retail perspective. It means it's on the shopping list before shoppers come in store. So there's that high intentionality, but also they're very engaged. So in store at the shelf edge, they're comparing what products are available. They're looking at price points. They're more open to promotions. They're more open to NPD. And again, we'll see this come through the different metrics in the coming slides, but really it's a positive story for the organic produce sector. So now the next slide, we're looking at traffic drivers. And really, so this is kind of, is this category going to bring shoppers in store? So on the left side here, on the traffic, you've kind of got the different metrics we're making it up around, it's the main reason I go to shop. I don't want to run out. If a retailer does this well, you can deliver brand and retailer loyalty. Promotions or kind of marketing pre-store will help get it on the shopping list, and needs to use as a price beacon. What we'll see here is that in the green oval, that all 4 organic veg categories are over-indexing on being a traffic driver, meaning that they're more inclined to be on the shopping list for shoppers coming pre-store. And looking at the organic salad veg there in the gold oval, again, really over-indexing there on being traffic drivers, particularly on the main reason I go to the shop. I don't want to run out, but also that brand loyalty piece, meaning that, if the retailer is doing organic salad veg well, that shopper is more inclined to be staying with that retailer. One last point on this slide I want to call out is around organic root veg and promotions. So what that means is that if you can bring organic root veg in your kind of marketing pre-trip, such as newsletters, email blasts, social media, it's more inclined to get that shopper to put on the list pre-store. On the next slide now, we look at this from an organic fruit and veg perspective. And what you see is a similar story. Both organic apples and pears and berries are over-indexing on the total fresh fruit category. And what's really interesting is this organic berry category, where the main reason I go to shop, 32%, which is considered over-indexing on that total fresh fruit shopper. And organic berries is something that comes through really strong across all these shopper metrics. On the next slide here, we'll look at spend drivers when it comes to organic veg. And this is really looking at, as a category, our shopper is more inclined to be spending more in that category, be it driven by promotions, around just willingness to pay a premium, around being open to NPD or new products, but also being open to impulse. So again, similar to the traffic drivers, across the board, these organic veg categories are all over-indexing for a spend driver, but also calling out there, don't mind paying more, on that third line. Again, across the board, these shoppers are willing to pay a premium for these organic veg. Again, really positive story for the organic veg category. Similar now for organic fruit, it's the same story where both organic apples and pears and berries are over-indexing on total spend drivers versus total fresh fruit. But again, look at this organic berry row here, where you've got that shopper is willing to buy extra on promotion, they're willing to pay more, they're open to NPD and new products, but they're also open to impulse buying. So if they see it in store, they'll purchase it. And when we were working with the agency Shopper Intelligence, they actually found that organic berries is in the top 20 of all food and drink categories in store for those spend drivers. So it's actually a really kind of a bit of a success story for kind of organic produce, and really showing that, if we can get more organic berries in shelf from an Irish grower's perspective, that will help kind of conversion, but also support the retailer in their own listings as well. On the next slide here now, we're looking at overall satisfaction when it comes to veg. So there's a lot on this slide. We'll be sharing the webinar afterwards, so you can interrogate in more detail. But I have called out a couple of the attributes here. The firstly, looking at offers, root veg is over-indexing on offers, meaning that shoppers feel that there's a good promotional scheme and offers within root veg. So it's interesting to see is that being more inclined in store versus green veg and salad veg. In the next list here is all the kind of quality cues. The first one, looking at premium, shows that how this is asked is around shoppers feeling that they're getting a premium product for what they're paying. And again, really high scores here for green veg, salad veg, and potatoes. And then looking at Irishness, meaning is there an Irish variety available? And again, really strong scores there for root veg, green veg, and potatoes. A little bit under-indexing there for salad veg, which is understandable because within that group, it's the likes of avocados, which we won't be able to grow in Ireland. But again, it kind of goes back to a bit of an education piece to shoppers around what we do grow in Ireland and seasonality as well. The last two I want to call out is first is around navigation. Navigation is kind of two pieces. One, it's actually kind of the pack itself. Is organic easily called out on pack? And we know from shoppers this can be a bit of a frustration at times about really finding it hard to differentiate what an organic range versus a conventional range is. And I know myself, only recently I bought carrots that were organic, but it's only because I know that they're organic that they're there. It's very hard to actually see it on pack. So this can be a bit of a frustration for shoppers. The second piece as well is around where it is located in store. And each of the retailers in Ireland have a different approach to merchandising and where organics is. And, sometimes that can lead into a bit of a frustration for shoppers in store. So, again, if there's easy ways to kind of showcase where organics is, be it in-store POS, how it's going to navigate it, it will positively impact the shopper. And I think Conor showed a good example of Rewe in Germany, who had that bio brand. Again, looking at kind of a availability, again across the board, good high scores there. Availability. This is under indexing for green veg. So again, I think there's an education piece here for shoppers around kind of seasonality and what to, and yes, an opportunity here for seasonality, both for the retailer, but also growers and Bord Bia to really kind of champion this from an Irish perspective. On the next slide, we'll see this from an organic fruit perspective. And again, similar high scores here, calling out berries, really premium product, 70% versus 47% for total fresh fruit. And again, showing that the shopper does see that they're getting a premium product for what they're paying. And again, kind of Irishness, good scores there as well. The final two pieces, similar to the veg side of things, it's around navigation and availability. So it's the same story there around making it easier to find in store, but also that education piece around seasonality. And look at the next page. Again, this is more to be shared afterwards, but we'll look at the kind of so what's here. Firstly, from a root veg perspective, it's making it, it's making it easy to find in store, but also kind of making it easy to call out organic on pack. Green veg and salad veg, as we shown there, they're high kind of spend drivers, but again, navigation is an issue. So showing them where it is in store, calling out organics on pack, and also what you can do kind of pre-shop will all positively impact that shopper's journey. Potatoes, really big call out there is an origin and a big openness to Irish organic potatoes. And then apples and pears and berries, again, it's all around that kind of comes. And with berries, again, really, really positive story around organic berries. So again, I think that's the big call out here when it comes to this research, is that there's a lot of scope to further kind of drive penetration to organic berries. And the big call out is around Irishness and champion Irishness when in season. So that's everything kind of from the shopper consumer behavior piece. We also just want to kind of bring through a couple of slides through Kantar, which looks at kind of Irish organic retail sales for 2024. Firstly, looking at total veg sales, the total veg categories worth 1.1 billion in 2024, which is up about 9.8%. But what that was driven from was price and frequency. So frequency is a positive piece in relation to shoppers buying into the category more regularly, but price is around price inflation. So that's what's driving that value growth of 9.8%. Looking at here from an organic veg perspective, again, value increasing by 9.9%. So really, really positive. But what's excellent to see here is actually driven from frequency and volume. So shoppers buying into the category more regularly and also buying more volume per trip. So it's a much more positive story versus total veg. Next slide here, then looking at our kind of top 5 drivers within organic vegetables, is really driven by kind of the likes of big growth around carrots and broccoli last year. And from an Irish grower's perspective, this is again is really positive, because looking at categories like carrots, broccoli, onions, particularly, these are lots that we can grow in Ireland. And again, it kind of shows that like this is where the shoppers are looking for when it comes to organic veg, and where there's opportunities to kind of further grow these volumes over the coming years. Just looking at my last slide now is around who that organic veg shopper is. And really it's kind of two ends. Really it's around that pre-family, accounting for about 20% of that total organic veg shop. And then it's that older shop as well, kind of that 45 plus is where that kind of the driving is for around organic veg sales. And again, that goes back to a slide that Conor would have shown earlier around the different messaging that you need around organics, that there's not just one organic shopper. So with that, now I'm going to hand back over to Conor, who's going to talk through the More Organic campaign.
Thanks very much, Emmet. So as some of you may be aware, Bord Bia has now launched 2 bursts of our More Organic campaign, which promotes increasing purchasing organic food and drink for the Irish consumer. This focuses on communicating the benefits of buying organic Irish food and drink. The campaign covers a wide variety of touch points using a cross-category selection of assets. There's some examples here. For this campaign, we've used online and social media, video on demand, which is the likes of RT Player and Virgin Media Player, both national and regional radio ads, and out-of-home advertising such as billboard and bus shelters. We've seen resounding success from this campaign, over the two bursts, reporting a 15 million reach, 3.2 million completed video views, 1.2 million audio listens, and 400 plus billboards around the country. Now, more importantly, in terms of consumer behavior, 84% of shoppers would pay more for organic food and drink, an increase of 14% following the campaign. Going on to that, 63% shoppers actively look for Irish organic food and drink following seeing the campaign, another 14% increase of before. And finally, 4 out of 10 shoppers claimed they bought more Irish organic food following seeing this campaign. Following on from this success, we are now going to be launching the third burst on the 14th of May. There's going to be a 4-week campaign over multiple touch points, radio, online, out of home, and video on demand. This will further be leveraged through Bloom Trade, which will begin at the beginning of June. And then finally, we're very conscious that there's been a lot of information here, but to sum up, firstly, looking at the European market, the European organic market recovered in 2023 and is now growing in 2024. Usage of various pricing strategies are seen for organic produce in mainstream retail. Going on to the Irish market, organic produce and traffic and spend drivers in store in Ireland. Search is the key driver of purchase, followed by health and quality cues. And again, this links back to what myself and Emmet both alluded to, that you need to communicate the benefits and the USPs on pack and in store. And finally, through what Emmet outlined, the Irish organic veg category grew by 9.8 in sales in 2024. That our national marketing campaign will be going live for its third burst on the 14th of May. Thank you very much for your time, and we welcome any questions on this.
Thank you very much, Conor and Emmet. A lot of good information there, and thanks for bringing us up to date on where the market is at the moment and where the opportunities are as well. I'd just like to remind people that we can take questions through the chat as we go through the webinar today. And what we'll do now is we'll move on to the second presentation from Ged Futter, and we'll come back to questions at the end. So Martin is in the background there, and he's just going to play Ged's piece.
Hi, I'm sorry that I can't be with you today. I'm actually training some clients. One of the things I'm training them on is how to negotiate better with their customers. Now, what I want to talk to you about today, something that I'm passionate about, is how you manage risk, look for reward and opportunities in the supply chain. Now, one of the things that we know is actually that, particularly this year, you're facing a huge amount of headwinds and tailwinds, and really the level of uncertainty is probably higher than it ever has been before. We've had huge amounts of uncertainty over the past 4 or 5 years, and that's not going away. The world that we live in now is full of uncertainty. You have to manage that uncertainty. Now, if you're in agriculture, uncertainty is something you're absolutely used to. I wrote a report about 18 months ago, and it was based on the food supply chain, looking at risk and what is the risk and how is the food supply chain working and is it broken? And I had feedback from over 40 different people working in the industry with over 1,000 years of experience, and some of the quotes that they come up with are things that you will know inside out. One of the big things that came out is this: the risk versus reward is now out of kilter. More farmers are asking, is it worth doing? And one of the questions is it worth doing? And then is it worth doing organically? So the sector that you are in is an area that has had many challenges. And now, when I was speaking to people about the report, one of the things I kept hearing about this is it's about being in control of your costs. Are you in control of your costs? Now, I was a buyer. I was a buyer at one of the biggest retailers, grocery retailers in the UK for nearly 15 years. I had to be on top of my costs every single week. I knew exactly where my costs were at a line level detail. I knew where I was making money, where I wasn't making money, and I knew what I had to do to make changes to ensure that my business was stable and profitable in a long-term way. There were always bumps in the road, but I had to deal with those bumps in the road. Now, one of the things you quite often hear is the retailers, it's their responsibility. The reason why agriculture is suffering, the reason why farmers can't make any money is because of the retailers. Now, that is a very lazy way of approaching it, actually, isn't. This is what one of the, or a couple of people spoke to me in the report said. They said retailers are often lambasted as being the sole cause of all ills in the sector. This is a gross distortion of the truth. As one grower said, we wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for the multiple retailers. We just want to engage in the right way. When you look at any of the multiple retailers, then what they are is a very efficient way of getting food to the masses. The value and the volume that you get working with the grocery retailers is significant, but at the same time, there is a huge amount of risk. That risk will never go away. Working with any grocery retailer has got risk, but that is where volume will always lie. But the sector so often isn't actually working together. I heard this on multiple occasions. Last man standing, and that's what can happen. So you look across and you see, okay, well, what's happening? Who else has left? Am I the last person in my category? I kept seeing, if I wait long enough, another of my competitors will disappear and run out of track. Now, what's great to see is people like yourselves all coming together for opportunities like you've got today to talk about how you can work better. The sector will only improve if you work better together. That is the reality. If it is a world of last man standing, then that means that the person who wins there, it's the buyers. Buyers will always win in that situation. Don't forget, you will always hear this, that the buyers always talk about one thing. They only ever talk about price. The focus on price is relentless. That's all that they try and do. That's their job. A buyer's job is to focus on how they get the best costs from their suppliers and their growers. That is what they do, and they are trained to do it. The retailers spend literally millions of pounds training all of their buyers on how to buy better from all of their suppliers. That's what they do. And when they do that, they want things like this. This is what a buyer will want. They will want long-term contracts with 100% availability. They want the tightest specifications, and they want the lowest price in the market. Now, in some sectors, it's not about long-term contracts. Actually, it's a contract that might only be a year. Now, what the retailer will say is they'll say, we've worked with our growers for over 20 years. But what often that is 20 years of 1-year agreements. So where does all the risk lie in that situation? The risk lies with the grower. Now, the retailers, they want the tightest specifications, but they cannot have the lowest price. If that's what you want, if you want the quality and the tight specification, you're not going to get the lowest price in the market, particularly if your product is organic. You also have to remember that this is what you stand for. You set the quality standards. So the quality standards that the retailers want are based on what they get from you. The further away that they go, then the bigger the risk is for the retailer. All you have to do is look back a couple of years ago and see what happened when there was gaps on shelf because the retailers had moved a lot of their business abroad. Now, the retailers will always rely on imports. We know that actually that you cannot produce enough food because of the climate. That's the climate and also the size of the country. So that's not possible. So the retailers will always need you. They can never get all the food they need from overseas, but they will try and push that. What they'll try and do is push and say, I can get cheaper prices. Yes, if you go further to sea, you can get cheaper prices, but you're never going to get the same quality standards. And the further away you go, the more risk you add into the supply chain. One thing that is really important is for you to know, what are your alternatives? Now, when you're working with all of your different customers, you have to think about how do you say no? The way that you learn how to say no is by having alternatives. Now, where do you sell your product? Is it through retailing? Is it through food service? What is the export market like? Do you have a brand? All of these are alternatives. The more alternatives you've got, the more balanced your business is, the easier it is for you to say no when the retailer keeps asking for low prices. What you can say is actually no. You can say no because I'm selling my product to this person, and actually they're paying me a higher price, and they're easier to deal with. Working with any retailer is difficult, it's complicated, it's expensive. That will never change. You can't change what it's like working with the retailers. Now, some of the relationships are getting better, but you have to determine where you want to sell your products and who you want to sell your products to. There is a belief for many retailers that actually there is a sea of plenty out there. And if they use a load of products in the UK or in Ireland, they will just replace it with an import. That is not the reality. The reality is very different because those retailers are very difficult to deal with. There are other retailers globally which are easier. There are other markets which are more attractive. So the retailers think they can get any of their product from anywhere. They can't. They are running out of alternatives. And what happens when they run out of alternatives? Well, what happens is that we can see that any industry is stronger together. In the UK, about 2 years ago, we had a problem with the price and the cost of production of eggs. The costs were going higher and higher and higher, and the industry was making no money. Now, what they did is they saw ahead, and so actually now the costs are getting even higher, and we've got no control of it. So the industry came together, went to the retailer, said, our costs are getting higher. We cannot supply, and we will not supply unless we get the costs, which mean we are sustainable in a long-term way. The retailer didn't believe it. They didn't listen. What happened? There was gaps on shelf. How long was there space and how long were there gaps on shelf? How long were eggs kept to a maximum number for the customers in store? About 12 to 18 months. That's how long. But that's because the industry came together. You as an industry are stronger when you come together. And that is the most important part. You have to think, how are we working together? The other thing to think about is this. Where is your marketplace? Is your marketplace just locally or is it globally? Now, we know, and I've certainly seen it with clients, the marketplaces that they are looking to expand are places like the Middle East, because over there, the costs that they are prepared, the prices they're prepared to pay, significantly higher. So you have to think about, okay, well, where is my market? Where are you thinking? Are you thinking locally or globally? Now, I know that there is a move for them to be more homegrown product coming out of Ireland. That is fantastic because that means that the retailers, they'll be under more pressure to have more produce grown in Ireland. So that means that they have to do more work with you. They have to work better with you. One of the things that you have to keep thinking about, it goes back to those things about costs, that actually is that what is your business? What is your business focused on? Is your business focused on being more and more efficient? Are you focused on being how you can keep growing more and be more efficient growing? Well, that's one bit of your business. You have to think about, well, okay, well, what is your business all about? The first part of it is growing. Then after that, you have to put on different hats. You have to think about negotiation. You have to think about selling. You have to think about influence. These are the most important things that you have to do to make sure that your business is sustainable for the future. All of your customers, all of your retailers are training their teams on negotiation every single year. You have to make sure that your skills match their skills. If your skills don't match their skills, then The retailers will keep going after the best prices. You're also selling. What is it you're selling? Why should they be buying your products? Influence is massively important. How are you influencing the sector? How are you influencing the industry? How are you working together to influence why any of the retailers should be buying more of your product? Why should they be buying more organic? Those are the three main hats that you have to keep wearing. When you go in to any meeting, you have to think about, what hat am I wearing? Is this a negotiation? Is this about influence? Am I selling? What hat am I wearing with my customer? It's not just about being more efficient. It's about thinking about how you deliver in the long term. Now, I am really confident, and I know where the power actually lies. I was a buyer for nearly 15 years. I saw the pendulum shift. I saw it move. The power used to sit all with the retailers. That power has moved. The more power you give to your retailers, the more they will take. You have to understand that power sits with you. The time for change is now. And that change is about you taking control. It's about you as an industry working together to understand what you have to offer. What you have to offer is different, has got value attached to it. If you understand that and you control that, the conversations that you have with your customers will be very different. They can be assertive, they can be confident. You can be confident that they need to work with you. So, just going through the key points for you to do. What are you going to do differently? Remember, buyers are trained every year to say no. Are you trained as well? Do you know how you can say no? Do you have alternatives? What are your alternatives? If you don't have any, how are you going to create some? They are focusing more on homegrown. Use this. This is to your advantage. They do not have the options that they used to do. Capacity is limited. So when capacity is limited, that means you can choose who you sell your product to. You have to prepare, plan, and practice. That's what the retailers do every single year. The more you prepare, the better planned you are, the more in control that you are. This is all about a mindset shift. You are in control, you can be confident, and you can say no. This is about saying no so that they say yes to you. That's where you want to be. You have got some massive opportunities, but you have to be in control of those. Sorry that I couldn't be with you, and enjoy the rest of the session. If you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. So, Ged Futter, I am on LinkedIn. Enjoy the rest of the webinar and have a good day.
Very good. Some valuable insights from Ged Futter there. Just highlighting the importance of that relationship between growers, suppliers, and supermarkets, but also the array of skills that growers require as well. Not just in terms of crop production, but for managing that business side of things. So we can move on to some of the questions that we have at the moment, and we have a few here coming in. Just one directed to Conor and Emmet here. Was there information in your work around what share of the total organic produce the fresh produce might make up?
Yeah, so I think total fruit and veg would be approximately probably 75-80 million euro last year, and probably total organic retail sales is about 170 million. So like it's organic veg is the largest category, and then fruit is number 3 after dairy. But together you're looking at about 80 million out of 170.
Would it be fair to say, Emmet, that it's fruit and veg would be still considered sort of gateway products into organics? Is that still relevant?
Oh yeah, 100%. What myself and Conor didn't show today is we did a large piece of consumer research ourselves back throughout 2023, and organic veg and fruit were like the top number one and number three categories for people purchasing, and level of importance, and from a frequency play as well. I think like 94% of all organic shoppers had bought into organic produce at some stage, compared, double that of what you might see in, lamb or beef and stuff. So it's a really important category. I know from speaking to retailers, if you can do your organic veg well, you can get a lot more basket from that shopper as well. So it's definitely a really important category.
Good. Elaine, would you like to ask a question there in the question and answer?
Yeah, just another one about berries. You were speaking there about berries appear to be an opportunity area. Does the customer maybe want organic berries? Are they willing to buy them frozen?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So the research that we've shown there was just looking at fresh, so that didn't take into the frozen category. But I wouldn't see a reason why they wouldn't. Obviously, there's a lot of push around juicing smoothies, so that's like an organic fruit kind of category is already kind of driving their frozen category. I think what I would say is that there's probably a bit of awareness or education around to shoppers to look for organic berries in the frozen aisle. They'd be more inclined to go to fresh, so there would have to be a bit of navigation to it. But I do know that some of the retailers in Ireland would have organic veg ranges, the likes of peas, broccoli, spinach. So there is a small set of SKUs there for organic veg. So that means that the shopper is looking for it. But I think they wouldn't be necessarily inclined to go straight to frozen. So a bit of education or awareness around it.
Yeah. And maybe just Conor, just in relation to, you mentioned there your more organic campaign, where that's kicking off in May. So where will people see it, or how will people know it's on? What are you going
absolutely.
to do?
So from the 14th of May on, we're happy to say it's going to be a very high level of coverage around the country. It'll be out of home, so you'll see it in billboards, bus shelters, on video on demand, so on RTE, on Virgin Media, on radio even, you'll hear it. So there's going to be multiple touch points that you'll see this, social media as well. So we'll have the digital components of this. So it'll have very high coverage in multiple touch points across the country.
And what will it focus on, Conor? Will people see these is it actual vegetables or growers, or how are you going to impart it? How are you going to showcase it?
It'll be in both in static images, which I showed earlier, and also videos. So the videos show that it shows all the inputs and the level of care and the quality and input that went into organic produce. So it's really communicating to that end consumer the level of inputs and the quality that's associated with organics. So it'll be it'll show from farm to fork in essence, but it'll show the whole supply chain for us.
Okay, very good. Maybe William, do you want to take another question there?
Yeah, there's just one in here linked to your sort of you had your sort of bestsellers or opportunity crops as such, and there's a question here around potatoes and is there scope for increasing the amount of Irish grown organic potatoes?
No, absolutely. So in the Kantar and the retail data that I showed, even the potatoes isn't included there because the way they classify the groupings, they don't have potatoes in their total organic veg. So I think that was the question, but why it wasn't there. There's definitely a lot of scope there. I think a lot of people on this call will know John Hogan, and he presented very well recently about the opportunities around organic potatoes and the different variations as well, even things like new potatoes and roosters and stuff. So I think there's a lot of scope there. What I did show in the kind of the category deep dive was organic potatoes were performing very strongly for the shopper. And there was actually a eagerness for more Irish organic potatoes. The Irish score was lower versus the other categories. I think that's because, and again, using John Hogan as an example there, he did a bit of a store audit, and there was a lot more Northern Irish UK potatoes on shelf. And that's actually translating to shoppers looking for more Irish. So I think, again, there's a lot of scope there.
Just on it came through in your own presentations, but also in what Ged was discussing around domestic opportunity, opportunities for domestic supply. Do you have you had feedback in your surveys in relation to the current offering in supermarkets? Obviously, we're well aware of the level of importation currently. And do you have feedback around the offering, but also quality and freshness as well on shelves, or Is that something you see in your surveys?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's really, really positive is the kind of the satisfaction levels around organic produce, particularly Irish organic produce on shelf, like things like the root veg stuff, the carrots performing really, really well. And this is why we're seeing them growing so fast in sales data as well. So from that shopper intelligence research, it showed that people, the premium that they were paying for organic veg wasn't lost to them. They could see the quality of it. They could taste the quality of it. They just want more of it. And I think there's a big push from, department, Teagasc, Bord Bia to try to get more Irish organic produce on shelf over the coming years. It's a called out in the new national organic strategy, and there's a big focus. And and I know working with yourself, William and Elaine, and other members across the supply chain to see how we can do that. And there's an appetite from the retailers as well. If you have a stronger Irish portfolio in produce, particularly organic produce, you can convert more shoppers as well, and you can get them paying more and get more kind of value into that basket. So it works for everyone across the supply chain.
I'll just ask one more and then I'll hand over to Elaine. There's a couple of questions in around the diversity, the market diversity as well. Around today, we've focused a lot on the opportunities from the retail point of view, and Conor presented some information around what's happening in Europe. Is there room for specialist organic supermarkets, in Ireland in that sense, and then we can maybe just have a chat about the other models around direct selling and etc. But on the first point, is there room here for specialist stores? Scale,
yeah, there is and there isn't. Okay, so I think markets like Germany and France are quite unique. If you're looking at Germany, retail organic sales last year were 16 billion. We're 170 million in Ireland. 5 million population. But we have seen some great examples. You got the likes of Urban Co-op in Limerick. It's not solely organic, but it's very much championing local, and organic is a key part of it there. And like if you meet Anne Maher or any other people part of that community, it is thriving. It's growing year on year. They've got more products available. They got more weekly shoppers and high affluent shoppers as well. So that model is there. I think it's always going to be a case of size. They're going to have a very unique shopper base versus dealing with the major retailers and trying to find your niches there. And I think that's where championing local organic growers is a nice way. And I know there's a whole new bio district for the Midwest that's coming through. We're going into like Tipperary, Limerick, Clare and Galway. And again, seeing how we can bring more organic growers, more organic farmers together to supply the local markets. And I think hopefully from that 2-year pilot, there'll be opportunities to see how we can bring that to other parts of the country. So I think yes, there's opportunity for a dedicated specialty store, but it's going to be small and it's going to have a small selection versus your mainstream retail. In relation to direct selling, again, I think organic produce has a lot of scope with direct selling. Again, looking at research we didn't show today, I think about 20% of all organic produce sales would come through that direct channel, either box schemes or farmers markets, which would be considerably higher than any other category within organics. And really, the great thing there is it's the growers. They have an opportunity to talk to the shop themselves, talk about the quality of what goes into the produce that they're selling. And something that was mentioned by Conor, and it came through myself as well, is that you have the opportunity to talk about the product, but again, not just being about being local or just organic, but the health benefits, the quality benefits, what exactly is actually into you growing that product. So, and that kind of shopper loves hearing that, and I think you're never going to be able to compete with that. Again, it's on a small scale, but when you go into mainstream retailers, because you don't have the growers at shelf. So again, there's a lot of scope within those channels.
Thanks, Emmet.
Yeah, and just following on from that here, just two questions, I'll roll them into one. Presently in Ireland, where are the customers shopping for their organic fruit and veg? And would you have any idea the percentage supermarket versus the independent?
Yeah, so we would get, to answer the second question, I wouldn't have the difference between the major retailers versus independent. In our own research, we had kind of total retail, which would include probably the independents versus, say, farmers markets and direct selling, which was that kind of 80-20 split. And then like, yeah, within the retailers, you know, Charles, it would be even enough across the board between the likes of Dunn's, Super Value, kind of Lidl would probably be the top three for an organic produce perspective. But again, like they're all quite similar from looking at the most recent Kantar data.
Okay. A very specific one here, just in relation, you were talking about the opportunities of potatoes, etc. Somebody's wondered, what are opportunities for the likes of carrots and onions? Have you?
John, I'm no expert on the different
Yes,
varieties. I know. I wish I had the knowledge of John Hogan or some of this for this question, but what I can say is that what we see from the two different pieces of research we showed is that there's a high appetite for carrots overall, and they're growing. I think it was plus 15% last year. So there's a growth there. In relation to the varieties, I wouldn't be able to comfortably stand over that, but I think it's definitely. I think taking a step back, big picture, it's nice to see that there's an appetite in those produce.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe just in Ged's talk, he said a lot about that as a group, people need to come together and work in this whole supply chain. From the work you've done, and maybe just from your own observation, is that an answer to people coming together? Is there opportunities for people to come together? What would your take be on that?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's nothing easy. Like it's not an easy solution, but I think it definitely is the long-term play or solution that we have to go for, because for the big retailers, and they're going to be accounting for, you know, approximately 80% of sales, they need scalability, they need consistency of supply, and, you know, they need, you know, they need a number of growers growing those key kind of produce areas. So I think it's, you know, be it having a coordinator who's working with a number of growers together, or working through maybe the associations like the likes of, I don't know, like even the Teagasc or the OGI or something, that you can coordinate that supply. I think where Bord Bia will fit into this, and where we want to fit into this, is trying to continue to invest in the insights to see which, you know, how the categories are performing, where the areas are, and then working, you know, with the retailers, kind of getting their understanding of where they see growth or where they're looking for more supply, and then feeding that back to industry, and then looking at that kind of that coordination. But again, I think it's many different, you know, people, organizations.
But it's a lot of work. Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. And look, Elaine, you know this yourself. Like, this is for, I think, organics across the board. It's not just bespoke to produce. I think we need more coordination as a whole, as a sector, to really realize those opportunities that there are for us.
Definitely. William, I think we've one more there.
Yeah, certainly. And I suppose it's in reply to a question we've just come in here as well, around how might we build better relationships between growers and retailers and consolidators, etc. And I suppose it is complex, and it depends very much on the market you're supplying as well. And you know, we were involved in the MOP CIP project a number of years ago, and that was based around 11 growers working collaboratively, and it was a very positive project, but at the same time, the diversity in the market can create challenges in that sense as well. So there are factors involved, and anybody who's interested in kind of understanding how growers might collaborate, that's a good project to look up and to check in with. Just one question, Emmet and Conor, on that bit of a dip in 2023, because if you look at the numbers from previous years in terms of retail sales, they're in and around that 55-56 million mark. Was there some reasoning behind that dip in 23 and that bounce back? Cost of living?
No, it was across organics across the board, not even in Ireland, but across Europe. A lot of it came from cost of living crisis. People were feeling the pinch. They were switching out of what they normally purchased. They had to kind of, there was a couple of, particularly 2022, first half of 2023, we saw it across Europe that people were switching out of organics, or in a European context, they might have switched out of going to a dedicated organic store to a mainstream retailer to get their organic offering because it's a little bit cheaper. What's positive is that we're seeing those shoppers come back into the category, and I would have shown in the Kantar data that you know, the 9.9% increase in vegetable sales is coming from increased frequency and increased volumes, which means that shoppers are coming back into the category and buying more, which is really positive, rather than it being a cost inflation piece is why we're seeing growth. So again, the positive here is that shoppers are coming back into the category, and from ourselves talking to the different retailers, a lot of them are committed to organics, particularly organic produce, particularly Irish organic produce, and there's an appetite there to try to get more on shelf. And again, you know, going back to it, like this won't happen overnight, but like it's starting that journey now for the next couple of years to kind of to see that kind of Irish share increase on shelf.
Yeah, certainly. There's just one point in here as well in relation to is the PO model a way to scale, and certainly it is one option, and you know, we have a lot of informal trade, I suppose, arrangements between growers as well, but certainly the PO model is one. And I could point viewers to or people in the audience to a very good webinar that's on the horticulture development website. Colleagues and people from the Department of Agriculture and growers in POs were involved in the webinar there recently, and that's a good one to check, just to understand the PO model a bit better. Do you?
There's one final question, William. We've time for one more. One for you, Emmet. Emmet, do you see issues with supply now for the next few months due to the storm impact in particular?
Yeah, no, unfortunately I do. Again, look, a lot of people on the call growing on the ground will have a better sight than I do, but just from speaking to different people within the industry, there is an expectation that we'll see a little bit of a shortage in the coming months. I think from myself and Conor's perspective, and speaking to the retailers, we have a number of retailer meetings over the coming weeks, and part of that is to explain, you know, again, it's nothing new to them, but again, it's just explaining that, look, there is obviously going to be issues, but longer term, we do see a lot of growth with organic growers, and you know, like, I know there's a little bit of disruption now, but look, let's start talking about the future as well and kind of get that appetite up again. So in our initial chats, it's all been very positive from the retail perspective and an understanding, but it's just unfortunate in where we are at the moment with the impact of the storm.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions, William.
We've have all of our questions more or less covered at this stage, and we're bang on time. So what I might do is just to wrap up and to say thank you for everyone who participated in the webinar today, and for everyone who joined us. We hope you found the session valuable, and again, I want to give special thanks to Emmet Doyle, Conor, Hogan, and to Ged Futter for sharing their expertise with us. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to get in touch through our contact details on the Teagasc website. And I just want to remind folk that the webinar will be up on the Teagasc Organic website in the next few days. And thanks again, and we hope to see you at our next event.